actually live in Queensland now with my wife Deidre, and I feel sorry for those of you that have never met her yet, but she's definitely the one that you want to meet. She's the one that is unbelievable to hear. And recently somebody showed the business to someone that used to know us many years ago in Sydney, and when they then heard about our success, they said, "Oh, well, Deidre must have done it." So, which I didn't really need that for my self-esteem. It's low enough as it is, but it's pretty true. You know, without her, I don't think we would have got very far, and especially just her believing in me, which is a big head start. And we've got 3 kids, and now 17, 15 and 12, and you'll see some of the slides and all that later, whether you like it or not. And I always used to wonder why these people tell their stories at these meetings. So just to give you the bit of the format, you probably will need a little bit of paper for the beginning, but it's really just to get to know you a bit in the beginning. And later in the evening, we hope you're around and you come back. At the second part of the night, there is a second part, in case you're not sure. That's from midnight till 2:30. No, not really. Won't be that late. It's the second part after the break. That's when we'll actually tell you exactly some of the things you need to do to get going. But in the beginning, it's just to let you know a little bit about our background and why we started this business. And you wouldn't believe how much we've got in common, no matter what your background is, as we look at this business and as we go through life. So I won't go right back to the beginning, you know, although I was a really ugly child. And my parents used to take me everywhere with them because they didn't want to kiss me goodbye. So it was a pretty sad childhood. It was really sad. But I grew up in Africa till I was 12, came to Australia and lived in the Gold Coast, went straight to the Gold Coast. And having been brought up in Africa, in Zambia, in the middle of the bush, nowhere near the ocean, man, to come along and live right on the beach in the Gold Coast was an unbelievable dream for a 12-year-old. I couldn't believe it. It was so nice. And so I spent every morning, every afternoon down the beach. I was just obsessed. It was absolutely fantastic. I went to Miami High on the Gold Coast. Doesn't mean much to you, but it had the second lowest academic rating of any school in Queensland. Had a big drug problem at the time, you know, mainly the teachers. But it was just a pretty interesting school. And 2 people went to university out of Miami, out of that year 12. Like, it was a pretty amazing school. And after high school, I actually took a year off. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I took a year off, bought a motorbike and grew my hair halfway down my back and rode around Australia on a motorbike. And I worked at fruit picking in Victoria. I worked in Norwest Whaling Station in Western Australia, which is actually a prawning factory. And salt mines and all sorts of things for a year, and then decided probably going to university wouldn't be a bad idea. I did okay in maths and science, so I did engineering. And my father was an engineer, so... You know, I don't know how you started your career. It was just kind of like, you know, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Oh, well, I guess I'll do that. They told me I'm okay at maths. So I started engineering that way in a room. You know, there's like 400 guys in this room and 2 women in the engineering class. Actually, there was 2 women, but I only thought there was one, which was Deidre. And you'll see the photo. The other woman looked like a truck driver. Dead set. No offence to any truck drivers, but it wasn't. Well, it took me a year to find out there was another woman in the class. So Deidre was the only noticeable woman, and so my focus was instant. You know, like, it was pretty easy. I had a bit of competition, you know, 399 other guys, and I wasn't the best looking or most intelligent, but I was the most focused, and so I chased her. And eventually she relented, so we got together and we just became best friends straight away. That was the best part of the deal, and we'll show you some of our university photos in a little while at the end, and you can see that where we got together. Long story short, you know, university didn't really suit her after 1 year, so she left and came to Sydney, and I continued university in Brisbane. And anyway, we kept up the relationship that way. And then she just got a transfer in her job up to Queensland, and then I finally got out of engineering, couldn't get a job in Queensland, so I came to Sydney, got a job in Sydney, and stayed in a little house in Mossman, in a little house that was split into 3, and it was like 1 room and a kitchen, and I shared it with this other guy, and started there literally in a suitcase. And you know, it's really funny. I'll go through visually just what happened with our income with my jobs and my career, but it's pretty amazing the changes you make in your life. Just, will I get a job in Sydney? Suddenly you uproot yourself and you end up in another city, didn't know anybody here. It was pretty weird, but like a lot of you're probably not originally from here. And it was within months. I was sitting at my desk at work thinking, my life's over. And I don't know what your first job was like, but I just looked at these people that had been doing it 5 years longer, 10 years longer, 20 years longer, and they just hadn't got what I thought you'd get after being in a career that long. I don't know how you could be so stupid or naive, but I was. And maybe because my parents had their own business. My father, I never saw him because he worked so hard, but he loved it. So all I ever saw was someone enjoying what they did. I didn't notice the guys coming in, in the office like this. It was a shock to me to see people, and they earned slightly more money after many years. They usually had bad marriages, bad health, and when I hung around, like Mike was talking about the top army guy, when I hung around with the top corporate people, I didn't actually like what I saw. It didn't look good. And I didn't like the fact that, all week you did the same thing every single week. I go backwards and forwards, go to work, come home, go to work, come home. Friday night's the drinking night, and you stand around and tell stories, and it just seemed pathetic. It really did. It struck me that way fairly quickly, and I looked at all of that, and at the same time, we were just settling in Sydney, and we were living in a little unit at Marsfield. We were trying to exist, really. We had literally slept on air mattresses. You probably don't know anyone as bizarre as us in your entire life. I mean, how much does it cost to get a second-hand bed? Not much, okay? But we slept on air mattresses for months. We had no furniture, two bricks, a plank and a telephone. We spent a couple of months without any television set, nothing, till we noticed one down in the basement of the units that we were living in. And at midnight one night I snuck down, nobody looking, picked up this TV, brought it up, dusted it off. It had been in the rain and everything, been sitting there for a week. Turned it on, stood back, in case it blew up. And it worked, well, kind of worked. Half the screen worked, and it was black and white. And it was actually this time of year because Wimbledon was on, and there was John McEnroe was playing at the time. He was a little short, fat guy. Took me years to figure out he was actually normal. And you had to sit this close to actually figure it out. So Deirdre and I, our lifestyle was, go to work, come home, and sit on the carpet, eating off our laps, watching the TV. And basically arguing our heads off. Here we were at university, good friends, having a great time. Now starting this career, and I was trying to get ahead. I've never been afraid of hard work, but we were fighting all the time because Deirdre still had this fantasy of having a great life, and I'm in this job working hard thinking, I can't see anybody that's got a great life. And maybe it's different where you work. I don't know. It wasn't where I was. And the point is we were looking, really, really looking. I hope you're looking tonight for something. We definitely weren't looking for this, but we were looking. And every Saturday we'd pick up the newspaper, look for work wanted ads and small businesses and all that sort of stuff. But we were just looking. And at that time, a guy from our office invited us to have a look at this business. And we went along to his house, and it was an interesting invitation, but was very much like as we'd invite today. But I said, it's not that shonky Amway, is it? And he said, no, it's not shonky. So I thought it was an Amway. So we went along to his house, and we sat in this tiny little couch with another couple, and there's another couple there and another couple there. And this couple next to us on the couch were really negative, like you could feel the vibes, and probably like someone next to you tonight. And we just felt bad, And I was kind of like naive and excited. And when it got to the big A word, oh, no, really? And I wasn't excited, but I took the information pack. And it's interesting, some of the steps that we'll talk about later in the night that actually work. We took some information away. Deirdre and I got in the car, and we argued immediately. We weren't even out of the driveway. In my mind, I'm thinking, that didn't look very good, And I say to Deirdre, what do you think? And she said, it stinks. And then I argued. I mean, what do you do with your spouse, right? Just as some of you argued on your way here tonight, you're right on track, okay? Some of you are going to argue on your way home tonight, you're right on track. So I immediately argued. But I got home, I had this little information pack, and I picked out of there a little book that showed all the successful people. And all of us deep down have some dreams that we could, be somebody one day. I mean, all of us kind of at some stage of your life, and I'm looking at these people that were somebody, and I'm thinking, you're kind of thinking, well, what if? And it put a little bit of the tape on, and it was an American on the tape, and Deirdre hated it, we turned it off. And eventually, we got dragged along to a business preview we, like a lot of you, that we lied about our first one. They kept saying, oh, why don't you come along on Tuesday night? No, we're busy. We weren't busy. We were sitting, eating on our lap, watching half a black and white screen at home. So we lied like a lot of you. And eventually we got there. And I still got gravel rashes from being dragged to this meeting. But we sat there in the meeting, about third row back, tiny little meeting. And what impressed me was the calibre of the person just showing the business presentation. I had no idea. I honestly thought I'd see a whole bunch of funny housewives. I had no idea. It was just different to what I thought. But, at the end when people get up and, hi, I'm a doctor and I'm fired up, and I'm a bank manager, I'm fired up, we left then because I thought this is building up to something, right? And I thought also, this can't be for real. I've never seen so many happy people in my life. Looks like they had frontal lobotomies or something. It was weird. Everybody was smiling. We left. So I went to work the next day, and I'm just telling you the story because tomorrow or next week, you might invite somebody along to a meeting and they leave before the end and you think, oh, darn, but you probably don't think, woohoo, Crown Ambassador coming up there. But it's exactly what happened. We left. And we got home and Deirdre does what she always does, falls asleep immediately, and I started getting excited, just thinking. Went to work the next day and arrived at work just with different eyes, looked at it differently. And I saw my boss sitting there, probably been there an hour already, his tie a bit undone, that corporate look. You've got to look really intense and heavy duty. Nobody in the corporate world smiles and, fired up. You're not going to get anywhere doing that in the corporate world, right? So that real constipated sort of face. And he's sitting there and I walk in, and some of you could do well in the corporate career, by the way, but I'm just sitting there looking at this guy, and all I could remember was the night before people were excited. Now, I had an engineering background, I'm good with numbers, I had seen the presentation once in this guy's house, then I went along to the business preview, I saw it again, I still had no idea what the numbers meant. All I remembered was the feeling in the room, and people were excited. And it's weird, isn't it? That's why I went back to have a second look. Not because of the logic of isn't it wonderful, and tonight we're going to attempt some logic later in the night, but honestly, I'd never been around where a whole bunch of people were fired up about something, and it got my curiosity. So we did research the business, and out of that decided that we got a dream or a reason to get going. Now, at the time I was shown this formula, and I'll just kind of relate to this maybe. Being an engineer, I remember I saw a formula early in the piece and I thought, yes, something intelligent at once. So success equals work times a dream times a vehicle. And that kind of applies to anything. It applies to what you're doing right now. But let me just explain what it meant to us in the beginning, what it means to us now. Success. What is success? Okay, it's not a religious meeting or a seance here. We're talking about financial success. What does this mean to you? Some of you literally would like to make a couple $100s a month, and that's okay. That would be fine. So don't worry about a lot of the stuff we go in, but maybe you're saying that because you don't believe you could make more. My goal in the beginning was $100 a week. That's why I got started. It got way out of control. By the way, I make more than that now. So relax, okay? But it got out of control. But you know why my goal was so small? Not because I actually had small goals. I've always been wanting to get stuff. It's just that I didn't think I could do any more. I was the biggest social retard you've ever seen. When the phone rang at home, Deirdre answered the phone. When Deirdre wasn't home, no one answered the phone. I've never met anybody like me that the phone would just ring and it didn't bother me answering it because someone would be on the other end and I didn't like talking to people, okay? I'm not even sure I like any of you. So I look at this business and it scared me, the people thing, so that's why I thought $100. So some of you that are saying, well, maybe a couple $100 a month or $500 a month, whatever, maybe it's because you're not sure if you could do more. By the time you've seen some of the other people tonight, you'll know. But a lot of people these days, of course, are using language like passive income. Yeah, I want passive income. What does that mean? Well, yeah, I want time and money. Like hardly anybody here would disagree that they'd want more time or money. So, of course, we know Robert Kiyosaki talks about the 4 quadrants, and he talks about the fact that 90% of us start off on this side as an employee or self-employed, and those 90% of the population earn 10% of the income. Okay, that's bad, but the worst part of it is they have to work dollars per hour, that they got to show up. So it doesn't matter if they're a brain surgeon as a self-employed person, if it requires them showing up to make the money, then that's not too good, okay? 10% are on this side as business owners or investors. So most of you know this, but what does that mean? Well, they've got 90% of the wealth. Well, what's the barriers to get there? Well, Kiyosaki talks about a couple of barriers. One is having the right vehicle, so we're going to talk about that in a second. And the other side of it is educating ourselves differently, is the education. And that's where Network 21 comes in, and how we started to think differently, and why we started to think differently. And we'll show you what happened in our business compared to our career income-wise, and it just shows you why you do have to educate yourself differently. When 90% of the world and school teachers and university professors and all those people have told us what to do, but that doesn't relate to financial independence. Now, is anybody here that does not want to be financially independent? You do not want to be financially independent. Okay, fairly average response for a room of this size, like nobody, okay? Unless you misheard the question. But most of us want to have some financial independence. Why? Because then we can get on with life. We don't have to worry about money. Now, let's just clarify financial independence. When you're because I sit down with a lot of people who say they want to be financially independent, they don't understand what it means, and they undervalue this business as a result. So I'm just trying to help you understand the value of this business. But when your expenses are equal to your passive income. So when you design your life, how much money would you need to have the lifestyle that you want? How much money would you like to live in the house you want to live in, to drive, to have holidays, to have some security for the future? How much is your lifestyle that you want? How much does it cost? When the cost of that equals the amount of passive income you earn, then you're financially independent. All right? Just want to clarify that. Real cute words everybody uses, but people don't understand, so they don't value this business, so they think this business is hard instead of understand how easy it is, if they really understand compared to anything else. Now, did you do anything last year or the last 5 years or the last 10 years that's contributed to your passive income? That if you stop work today, you're still going to make money no matter what? Most of us in this room, other than this business, have a real struggle with that, all right? So that's passive income, is income coming in that you don't have to show up for. Then you're free. And if you've ever played Kiyosaki's game, that cash flow game, you're out of the rat race. You're free, all right? It's no small thing. So when people say, yeah, I want to be free, it's no small thing. The price is different to what you're currently doing because it's a different result. So Kiyosaki says educate yourself differently, and you need the right vehicle. I think we've got the right vehicle. That's what we'll talk about a bit more tonight. But, you know, if you're just trying to understand why do we even have a meeting like tonight? I'm sorry if you can't see the bottom of this board, but it's kind of like there's a freeway, you know, big freeway that everyone's on, and that freeway is seriously going to poverty for most people, or pretty serious end result. And then there's this detour that you take where you can become free, financially independent. That might be, for some of you, gee, you just want to get on with some basic things in life, and maybe it's, you know, $2,000 a month. Man, and I'd set myself free. I don't need to travel around the world. Yeah, some of you it's $20,000 a month or $50,000 a month. It doesn't matter what it is, but you're free. And you've bought your life. You own your life. How weird is that? What a concept. Now, chances are you've never actually thought of anything like this before because you've never had the option before. Most people literally sit down and work out their grocery list every week, what they've got to go and buy from Woolies or something, more than the time they've ever spent about what they really want in life. And when it comes down to the rest of this formula, yes, it does take work. However, if you can find a way to make more money in less time with a better result, you come see me at the end of the night. Seriously, I'll walk out of here with you. But it takes work, but it takes less work than I've ever seen for the result that you're going to get. I don't even know any other way to get the result you're going to get, so I'll show you that. The dream, well, I saw Nancy Dornan showed us a DVD once. It was a great illustration of this, and if you just think about your life long term, just think 10 years from now, what would you like in your life? What's the picture in your head? And I'm just touching on this tonight. There's no way you're going to be able to get this clear tonight, but why do we bother having meetings like this? Just to think a bit differently, because you have a different vehicle in your hands that can get you different results. What would you like to achieve in 10 years' time? What does your family relationships look like? What does the house you live in look like? What does your income look like? What sort of holidays are you having? 10 years from now, how old are your children? How old are your parents, the rest of your family? What's the picture you're trying to create? And it's pretty sad, dead set, when most people go to work every single day, come home every single night, 365 days a year, they're going backwards and forwards with no idea what they're aiming for. No idea. And in this box there's 1,000 pieces, right? This is just one of them. Now, could you imagine, and I stole this idea from a DVD that Nancy Dornan, but it really helped me get the picture clear in my head. Could you imagine trying to put this jigsaw together without the photo? But just the pieces. All you've got's the pieces. It falls out on the floor, there's no box, and you're trying to put it together. I can't even put them together with the photo, but if you're trying to put it together now, and that's all you've got, and literally that's how most people spend their life. That's what we were doing. Where we had these latent dreams and thinking, but we didn't have a vehicle, we didn't have something to latch onto that where we could believe we could actually do it or that actually worked. And that's the benefit of what we got here tonight, that we all share, the opportunity to do that. So imagine each piece. Now, some of these pieces look illogical to the end picture. So some of the stuff we go through, particularly later in the night, it just doesn't, it's nothing like what you're doing right now in your normal life or normal business. You're not educating yourself at the moment. You see people talking about CDs and weekend conferences and meetings and things. You're not doing that at the moment, but that's exactly what experts like Kiyosaki will talk about that we need to do, and becomes obvious when you start to get a clear picture why we need to do that. But some of the pieces you're going to put together don't make sense necessarily now, but when you see the picture, and the clearer your picture becomes, then the clearer the answer is. For us, I don't know if you've seen this, this picture of this funny little dog. Actually, while we're rubbing that out, let's just go. Some of you have seen this before, but if I could just do the first PowerPoint, Mark, thanks. Just, we've heard about, I just want to get your head around this business. What would you choose, $1 million or 1 cent doubling for 1 month? Every day, right? Now, you've probably seen this, or you've heard it, or you know it's a trick question. So, well, of course, it's got to be a trick question, so you take the 1 cent doubling. But just to understand how it works, day one's 1 cent. Day two, 2 cents, 4 cents, 6 cents. At the end of the first week, 64 cents. So you get offered the opportunity to have $1 million at the end of August, or on the 1st of August, you get 1 cent and you double it each time. And now, by the end of the first week, your wife's hitting you with a baseball bat, the fry pan. You chose the wrong thing, you idiot. What did you do? Halfway through the month. You're halfway through the month. It's $163. Wow, how weird is that? And now that is looking seriously bad for your marriage, your relationship, whoever chose the 1 cent doubling bit. None of our brains work where we can get the vision to think we made a good decision at that stage. This is a different plan to get $1 million now, all right? So it's looking pretty bad halfway through. Well, looking a little bit better. 41,000 at the end of 3 weeks there. Day 31, $10 million, over $10 million. And there's a couple of messages in that story. One is that if you miss a day, it's a lot less. Consistency makes a difference. And the other is it's totally different to the way we normally think. So when you hear some of the stories and some of the results, and you see some of the trips and some of the lifestyle, even just that video that you saw before, it's like, how does that happen? Like, is that real? Yeah, it's real. It's just different. It's a different road to go on, okay? And that's why this business is so different, and that's why the education is so different. You know, people say, how come you have CDs and you have meetings, you have all this stuff? Because it's cheaper than brain surgery. That's why. See, you need brain surgery otherwise. You can't think differently. So most people these days realise and value education a bit more than ever before. I mean, you know, people like Robert Kiyosaki, many of these other people fill stadiums everywhere, people trying to get an answer, okay? And many of you would have been to those sort of meetings. Now, we get down to the vehicle. So you've got a dream, and we'll get down to some very specific goals and short-term things that you need to do later, but we get down to the vehicle. And here's the important part, is that you don't have to like it. You don't have to actually like what we're doing here tonight. You have to like the result. You don't even have to like the result, you just got to believe the result's what you want. Now, what result do you want? First, you've got to figure that out. And I've heard it said that getting what you want's easy, knowing what you want is hard. And that's my experience. When you know what you want, man, it's easy to find, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, I'm going to do this other thing, okay? And at that point of time, now you know what you want. But for example, I've got show you some pickies later, but you know, I've got a 745 Li BMW. It's an individual. It's got all these extra cool gadgets in it and DVD players and all this unbelievable stuff in the car, and it drives too, so that's handy. So it's a nice car. It's a lot better than the one we had at Marsfield, which was a little two-tone Fiat. We had a two-tone Fiat. It wasn't two-tone before, but it became later. It was silver and rust, okay? And we bought it from a rip-off joint just down the road here. And anyone ever gets sucked in like we did, I can't believe. But within 2 weeks we were driving along and sheets of paint would fly off like a whole sheet. Like they must have just given it a spray job. The exhaust pipe dropped out fairly soon after we got it, and we didn't want to replace it. Like we were tight. We were sleeping on air mattresses, right? I mean, not going to replace an exhaust pipe. So we'd drive around everywhere. You know, this car, unbelievably noisy. We'd come along and show people this business and tell them how to get rich, and then drive out the driveway. It's pretty weird. I wonder why it didn't go too well in the beginning, but we'd park down the street later because the house would vibrate. They'd wonder what's going on. Oh, you know, where's your car? Oh, well, we just came for a stroll. Go find our car. When it just sprinkled, the rain just starting to sprinkle, it would gush in under the windscreen. It like magnified the rain. And literally from here down, we get saturated. So we'd walk into people's houses, you know, squish, squish, squish. Oh, I've got this great business opportunity. So that car was a little weird. That wasn't a good car, but we're in a better car now. And, you know, if I want to go for a drive up to Noosa from our place, it's a couple of hours, beautiful drive, nice road, nice car. You know, kids can watch a DVD in the back while we're listening to CDs, and that's neat, you know. It's really, really good if we want to go to Noosa. If we wanted to go to Hawaii, it's not too good. No matter how fast we drive, it's going to maybe go 100 metres off the land, right, and it's going to sink. So the vehicle that you currently have, is it going to get you what you want? That's the point. But you've got to figure out what you want. Now, why I'm saying all this is finally we woke up and realised, wow, you know, we started to get a bit of a foggy idea on what we wanted. And it certainly wasn't, we weren't going to get it in the job I was in or any of the things I could see. As an engineer, start my own engineering business, none of those things in 100 years would get us the result. Maybe it's different for you. But when I finally acknowledged that, you know, it's a bit like now, if you want to go to Hawaii, okay, an aeroplane is an excellent way to go. Maybe you don't like flying. Who cares? It's irrelevant. It's a good way to go to Hawaii. So it depends on the destination, the vehicle. And you don't have to like the vehicle. Because if you're fairly new in this business, some of the things you will do in the beginning are just different. They're uncomfortable. It's like everything new you start. It's no different. It's just different. Do you know what I mean? Different to everything. So it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning. What does that mean? No problem as long as you get into where you're going. So we're going to share some short-term things that happen to you that you need to keep an eye on, and some long-term things that happen you need to keep an eye on when you set your destination. And there's no way in this room tonight you'll know ultimately what you want to do. Absolutely no way. And for Deidre and I don't know if you heard the story about this, you know, funny little dog. Okay? He's a Queensland dog, right? Looks different. But, I heard this story a couple of times, and I didn't understand it, so I don't know if you'll understand it, but, this dog is sitting on a nail. So this guy is standing next to his dog, and the dog's going, "Arr, arr, arr, arr." And this man walks past and goes, "What's wrong with your dog?" "Oh, he's sitting on a nail." "Oh, well, why doesn't he get off?" "Oh, it doesn't hurt enough." "Oh, okay, right." So he walks on, and that's exactly how we were. We were uncomfortable with my job. I didn't like my job. I don't mind working. The main thing in my job I don't like being told what to do. I'm terrible at being told what to do. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. I didn't like the air hostess telling me what to do flying down here today. I just don't like that. But I'm sitting there and it's not that uncomfortable. Everyone else is doing it. It's like, what's okay? Now, how do you get the dog off the nail? Well, there's two ways. You can, give him a nice, beautiful steak here, fire up his dream a bit. There's his dog food, and get rid of the polystyrene dog food and put some real meat there. And, wow, that's not good enough. Okay, get a TV and put Lassie video on for him. You could get, it's Sydney, so it's pretty cold, get a fireplace right next to his food there, get a nice carpet, and eventually he might get up. When the dream gets strong enough, that's one way, or when the nail gets sharper. For us, the dream wasn't so clear. It was the nightmare, the nail, that drove us more in the beginning. We definitely knew what we didn't want more than we knew what we wanted, if you know what I mean. Anybody like that? You kind of could make a list of stuff you don't like in your life a lot easier than actually dream about what if. Because maybe you've never been good at anything. I was never good at anything before. So dreaming about what I could be good at would be ridiculous. And why we accredit so much success to the system and the education system that we got from Network 21, one of the right things we did in the beginning, we got absolutely obsessed with CDs. Just tapes and CDs, we just listened to them all the time. I mean, it was just fantastic. Literally, we had this tiny little cassette player in our apartment, and we just moved it around depending what room we're in. But when we're in the bedroom, when we're in the bathroom, we played it all the time. When we're in the car, we put them on instead of listening to the radio. Sounds silly, but it got our thinking changing to where we thought we could do it. We thought that we could achieve some of this stuff. So a bit of this was driving us, and a lot of the nightmare. We go to work the next day and look at these people that have been doing the same thing for years, didn't like that idea, all right? So gradually, it started to come together for us. It was a bit of a fog. You'll meet some people that just instantaneously know exactly what they want to do, and some of the people that get up here tonight will sound like that to you, but it wasn't necessarily an overnight thing. It was just a gradual change. But the way that change happened was we attended the meetings like this. We'll talk about a conference like this. Remind me to talk about this as we come up. There's a weekend conference coming up in a couple of months' time, and we attended things like that. And what that did for us, like tonight's just, if you really think about it, it's just dedicated to thinking about what do you really want. And with all due respect, please, you're not here tonight to offer an opinion on whether you think this business will work or not. That's not why you're here. You're here to see if it maybe has something for you. Okay? Doesn't matter if this is your first meeting or your 10th meeting you've been to, but is this for you, the result for you? And as I said before, you don't have to like the result. If I said to you tonight, I'll give you $10,000 a week if you come and collect garbage for 2 hours a night after work, who would do that? I mean, yeah, I would. Sounds like a good deal, right? Give you a mask, your friends won't recognise you, be fine, all right? You don't have to like what you do. You just got to believe the result's going to be worth it. So half of tonight is, here's some stuff to do, but half of tonight is dead set it works. And if the more you appreciate what you want and probably clarify what you don't want at the moment, and there's nothing wrong with your life, I'm not saying that, but the more I got around these people, I just realised they had a better life, that's all. And I started to get jealous. And I thought, why couldn't I have? And I got that impression from these meetings. Now, Deirdre and I'll show you a quick comparison of what happened with our jobs and what happened with our business. But we have business in quite a few countries around the world. You could go to quite a few countries, walk down the street and go, have you heard of Mitch and Deirdre, Sala? No, yes. So if somebody said yes, if you found someone that said yes, they knew us, we famous for how slow we were in the beginning. We were pathetic. It's not a good thing to be famous for. But I'll just show you the end result was still okay. And we were for we were 3%. That's the first level you reach in this business for 16 months. First month we were 3%. We achieved 3% because we bought product ourselves. We went along to a meeting and they gave us a 3% pin. Now, you know, like little 3%, and we felt like a fraud. We'd just bought some products, these people are clapping for us. Man, my first engineering project that I had to work out for this company in Sydney I was working for, in this transportation reorganisation thing, I saved the company $1 million. In a few months of work, I never even got a thank you, a pat on the back, nothing, you know. Here I am, I buy some products and people are clapping for me. It's like, it's just weird. And then our second month we were 3%, our third month we were 3%, our fourth month we were 3%, our fifth month we'd show up at these meetings and people would see this little thing and go, oh, it looks different. Well, it's different because there's growing hair on it. And so we had to shave it occasionally. But people thought that, I mean, we were hopeless, we're absolutely hopeless. And the person that introduced us to this business, he quit the business because nothing was happening. Well, if you had us in your business, you would have believed nothing was happening as well. Like, we were bad. We were really bad. My best friend, one of the first people that joined, quit the business. Nothing was happening, okay? But nothing was happening. We were hopeless, but we were on track. And I just wanted to show you, because while all that was happening, we were still educating ourselves. We're still coming along to some meetings. And some of you are going to get some fantastic fast results and quick money. And some of you aren't in the beginning. My experience is in the end, it's all the same. We all go through exactly the same journey, dead set. It's amazing how fair it is. You want something fair? This is fair. If you're suffering and someone else isn't, trust me, it'll work out in the end. Like, it's, your time is coming, so don't worry. I'll just show you these slides of my job. Okay, this is the engineer always comes out. So that's dollars up the side, and that's years. I just want to show you. See that black line at the bottom? That's when I was going to university. I spent 4 years at Queensland University, and during that time, it costs you money to go to university, right? I wasn't making money. Now, the funny thing is, while I was doing my engineering degree, not once at all, ever, not once ever, did anybody walk up to me and go, you making any money yet? Well, but in this business, when I was in for 2 weeks, people were saying that. Like, making money yet? Oh, it's weird. There's normal life, all right? Then I got a job after 4 years, moved to Sydney, got that job, started Income X. That was my income, my starting job, okay, North Sydney, got a little office and all that stuff. Now, the interesting thing there too is I loved Queensland. That's why I'm back there now. I grew up there. I uproot myself, moved to Sydney for a job. How many people could change their whole life, career, friends, let go of everything for a job? And yet that seems normal. Like, yeah, well, that's normal. Are you kidding? Like, some of the commitments that people make in this business to succeed are a joke compared to what you do in regular life. You just got to see it differently. I worked for 10 years, and I thought I did well compared to most people. That's what the curve looked like. In the beginning, you get pay rises pretty quickly, and that felt good. Every 6 months, you got a pay rise. Then later, it becomes every 12 months, and then it flattened out. Now, if I looked at doing an MBA after 2 years, that was like 30 hours a week part-time. On top of that, they got Deirdre to come along to an introductory session. And at the introductory session, they tell everybody, oh, you know, your marriage is going to be under stress. It's a lot of extra work, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, instead of 4x, I might have been on 5x or 4.5x. I don't know. But it still would have been the same curve. I didn't end up doing that MBA because I actually saw this business at the same time. But it grows quickly in the beginning, relatively, then it flattens out. Now, does it still flatten out? I haven't had a job for a while. So what's a normal sort of pay rise right now? Annual? 4% anymore? 1.5 to 2. So if you're 4x there, then next year might be whatever, 4.05x or 4.1x. Would you all agree you don't get a big surprise? Oh, check it out, it's gone to 10x. Would you agree that's pretty predictable? And the sick thing is, if you're in your own business and traditional business, it's no better. It may even be worse. That's what your employees might get, and you might get less. It's horrible. Now, the other thing what happened is when we left, when I left work, I got nothing. How rude. There definitely wasn't any passive income side there. I got absolutely no money when I walked away from that job. And the reason I walked away from that job is because I started this business. Now, yes, it cost us money in the beginning because we came along to functions like this. Remind me to talk about this function. We came along to functions like this. We bought some CDs to listen to. We definitely started to educate ourselves, yes. And that cost us some money. Buying the products didn't cost us money because we were just replacing the other products we had, which is a good idea, by the way. Get to that later. But we were the world's record worst people in the business, okay? 16 months, we were still down there. Then we attended a weekend conference like this. Remind me to talk about this weekend conference, will you? It was actually our second one. The first one we attended kept us in, but it didn't actually have a big effect on us. Everyone's different. But I sat there, arms crossed, legs crossed, eyes crossed, like some of you tonight, and it kind of kept me in. I was interested, but I was there as an observer, just... Oh yeah, impress me, big shot, you know, like, I wasn't there to actually learn, I was just there, okay? So I could criticise later and you're right on track, okay? Feel comfortable, it's all right. The second one I went there and I wanted to make a difference, I really did. And I sat there and I learned some stuff. So we came out and went 21% in 75 days. Now, here's interesting. What happened at that conference? Remind me to talk about this conference, will you? Like, I don't want to forget because it's very important. But this conference, what happened at that conference was that the products didn't change. The business opportunity didn't change. It's the same vehicle. The CDs didn't change. The speakers didn't change. You know what changed? Me. My clarity of thinking. Suddenly, this became clearer. The nightmare became clearer. Dead set. That's all that happened. And you never know when it's going to hit you. Something could happen tonight. But we got clear. And I went out and suddenly, and the other big thing that happened to me is I was proud to be involved in this business. I thought, man, the caliber of people, the atmosphere, this is better than the other stuff. I sincerely felt that for the first time at that meeting. So we, boom, went 21%. We had kids. I kept my job. Deirdre gave up work. She's always wanted to give up work, hated work, used to come home crying all the time, hated that women got paid less than men, hated all that stuff that seemed abnormal but is normal. Again, you know, we didn't break any records. There's people that have done this in 2 years, but it took us 7 years to get to the emerald level. That's 4x. Now, we were terrible, horrible, pathetic. I'm sorry. Forgive me. But after 7 years part-time, in this business, I was earning the same as 14 years. 4 years of university, 10 years of work. Now, 7 years part-time, is that better than 14 years full-time? It's an IQ test here. Just nod at the appropriate time and you won't be embarrassed. But do you know this is not a good success story I'm sharing. There's tons of people here who've done heaps better, but it's interesting. Now, 1 year later, we were 8x. Understand the curve you're in, understand the duplication side of this business. 1 year later, I still had a job, but we just qualified diamond. Now, you don't know what diamond means, but it's pretty cool. It feels good, it's a big difference, and walking into work was just different. You know, when you're earning twice as much as your boss part-time, trust me, it's very relaxing. Like, it's amazing. I want you to do this. Me? You want me to do that? I don't think so. It's really, really good, I tell you. It was a phenomenal feeling. So maybe you just visualise it on Monday, the difference it could make if all this stuff was happening in the background, but how much stress that relieves was amazing. So at that point, though, as fun as that was, I didn't need to be there, and so I left, you know, with mixed feelings, joy and happiness. It was really a hard decision, but I left. Now, after 15 years in this business, we became Crown Ambassadors. Sounds like the Boy Scouts, say all these funny little levels, but there's some money with the levels. We'll show you that later. And that's 200x. Just to get it in perspective, that's the difference. Now, that's nearly 6 years ago, six years or so ago, and it's gotten better, but that wasn't bad. Now, if we literally stopped at that point of time, what would our passive income be? A lot of X's. That'd be really a lot. It'd be 100, 150 X's, be plenty, okay? So when you Which curve do you want to be in? Why is this business different? It's different. Why do you need to be educated differently? You do. It's a different vehicle, but it's fun. It's unbelievable fun when you can see more clearly where you could go. That's the only purpose of a night like tonight, and what it might mean to you. And I have met a guy that has done that in 5 years. It took us 15 years. Now, it's funny how we want everything instantly. People come into this business and they think, gee, it took you 15 years? Yeah, but I've met people that have been engineers for 15 years, or doctors for 15 years, or anything for 15 years, and it's not very good. Like, why would you expect this to be dramatic in 2 years? It's a career. So I've met a guy that did that in 5 years. Boy, he just had a better self-esteem in the beginning, worked harder, all that stuff, got going more quickly, all right? And so you can put your own time frame. On the 200X one, you can shift up to you on your commitment and what you see. The 4X one, you can't shift. That's society, that's life, that's the way it is. And a lot of the reasons, you know, if it's so good and it's all wonderful, how come everybody doesn't make it? You know, I met my next door neighbour was in this thing and he didn't make it. Let me tell you why. There's just 4 reasons very, very quickly that I could think of. The number one reason people don't make it in this business is that others' opinions, okay? That's the number one reason, in my opinion. They listen to other people. Sometimes it's family, sometimes it's friends, and the other people are on the 4X curve. So what do you expect them to say? I mean, seriously, they haven't seen the light. They haven't educated themselves differently. Why would they think the way you do? So you do get criticism from family and friends. I did. If you're going to wait for your family and friends to get positive, my experience is don't hold your breath. But other people, we're looking for the people that are looking for this business, and we're looking to get ahead. When my sponsor quit this business, my best friend quit this business, it didn't change my reasons for being involved. My reasons were the same. It didn't change that picture, didn't change the nightmare. So why would that affect me? I just need to keep going. And that's why we succeeded. But the second reason is people prejudge their results. Anyway, I can't go back there, but right in the beginning, some of you are right back there in the beginning, and it's actually costing you more money than you're making at the moment. You're right on track. You're on the curve. That curve, you're on the curve, all right? You'll adjust the end result of that curve to your own timing, but you're on the curve. People prejudge their result. When we reach 9%, and you'll see some people at 9% tonight, I was devastated how hard it seemed to me and how unproductive it seemed to me. Nobody in my business looked excited. Nobody. And at that point of time, it would have been easy to prejudge the business, and I've met people who reached that level and prejudged it, but out of that, 5 of our organisations, 5 of our legs came from that. It's a very big business. 2 of them are diamond legs. Okay, it'll mean more to you later. But a lot of business came out of that, totally set us free what we had at the 9% level, and yet it looked ugly. Just be careful you don't prejudge the business. The third reason is a really good one. I can't find it. Oh, they don't work hard enough. That sounds silly, but they just don't work hard enough. This is a part-time business, not a spare-time business. So you make time, it's part-time, you build it, and it works. That didn't happen by osmosis. We deliberately put time aside and worked it. But, you know, for a relatively teensy-weensy time, what builds up over a period of time? At least it builds up. At least it grows. It's not done once and then finished. It's not in the left-hand side of the quadrant, the dollars per hour bit. But we prioritised time, we prioritised money. We didn't have the money, we were sleeping on air mattresses. Remind me to talk about the seminar. But we would pay for a seminar like that. We could have bought a bed. You know, like we prioritised some money to build this business, all right? I'll cover that later. And the final point is they lose sight of their dream. They totally lose sight of some moment where they thought, oh, what if it worked? I mean, what if it did work for me? And I did get that lifestyle. So some of them just completely lose the dream. And it's uncomfortable to build this business, but what becomes more uncomfortable is missing your dreams when you sold out to your dreams. And I just want to finish with a couple of slides that show some before shots. Definitely make you believe you can do this. and some after shots. And later we'll fill you in on the gaps in between. But just where we are right now is very different to that little unit at Marsfield and that little Fiat and all of that stuff. And what this business spelt for us, we've gained a fair bit of wealth out of this business. Honestly, was never that strong an objective. I just wanted choices. If I had to pick one word, it was choices. Probably not even freedom. Just choices. I hate being limited. I hate being in a box. And I can't do what I want to do. Almost every time I've made a big decision in my life has been because of lack of choices. And it might be dumb little things. I'll never forget when I started to get liberated and get some choices where, you go and try on a new pair of shoes and you like this pair and you like that pair and, should I have that one or should I have that one? And then you go, I'll have both. Why not? I'll never forget that liberating feeling for something as dumb as that. And then it came to suits, and I don't like wearing suits, especially on the Gold Coast. You don't have to, but when I do, I like it to be a good one. So you go, I like that one, or I like that one, I like that. I'll take both. Man, that was liberating. And cars, a couple of years ago, I had this real dilemma. Lexus put out the new SC430. It's a really nice little sports car, and you push a button, the lid goes back in just a few seconds. Got all the gizmos in it, but it's just nice to drive, fun little vehicle. And then the same time, BMW brought out the new 7 Series, and I had a 7 Series, so I like the 7 Series. And what'll I have? And one day I woke up and said to Deirdre, I've had this funny feeling all week. It's like weird, but I think it's stress. Like, I hadn't had it for so long. And what it was not being able to choose. And we went, we'll have both, So just relieved that stress. And we live on the beach now. And I'm a bit biased, but Queensland, I think it's the best beach in the world. From my bed, it's 27 steps to the beach. It's a beautiful beach. It was voted the cleanest beach in Australia for the last couple of years. Absolutely beautiful. And it's just everything I've always wanted was to live on the water and the beach and listen to it. And I'm a different person. Like people, one guy said to me, I don't live on the beach and things corrode and all that. You'll find negative people everywhere. It's amazing. Like the first thing, they walk into this place, which I reckon is okay, and they go, don't things corrode? Yeah, everything lasts less except me. I last longer. It's just so nice. You go into bed at night listening. But our kids wanted a property. They wanted a farm, and they wanted, my daughter loves horse riding. You'll see a couple of photos of her, the horses, and she wanted a property. And my son, the 12-year-old, the youngest one, wanted to ride motorbikes and wanted a trail bike. And so, like they want property. Well, we'll get both, So a few months ago, we bought a farm, which we use as a weekender, but we actually go there after school every day now for the horses and our daughter's riding. But it's 15 minutes from our house. A good place to have a weekender. And it was fun. We saw the property on Sunday. The kids went, can't we have it, can't we have it? And Blake and Tam, they're the ones that really wanted the property. Rick didn't care. And so we looked at it, and by Tuesday we owned it. But the funny thing, Tammy is getting to understand this business now. She's 15, but she could see a whole lot of people looking at the property, and they were pushing us. And she said, isn't it great when people need money and you've got money? This is one of these revelations that came from Tammy. And it's true, because it was quite funny. The property was advertised for 1.25, and there was a lot I know that's not a lot of money in Sydney, but on the Gold Coast you can buy a nice house for that. But there's a couple of houses on the property, you'll see that. And people were, a lot of people were lined up trying to get the property, so we had to move quickly. And when the agent came to our house on the beach, and first of all she said, where's the lobby? But we went, no, it's a house, you come through here. So then she came and she said, what a shame you've got to leave this. And I said, no, we're not leaving actually, we just get in, the other one's like a weekender. And that was the first bit of confusion for her. And then she said, what about the finance? Is the finance, are you going to have trouble arranging that quickly? And I said, no, I've been saving for this for months. And she went, okay. So I'll just show you the slides. Okay. Hey, careful. That's me on the right-hand side with the pink stretch pants and the brown cardigan. And some of you aren't old enough, and you might think pink stretch pants and brown cardigan was in style at one stage. No, it never was. That's my university photo. I was obsessed about bikes. That's Deirdre when I first met her. We got to see the after shots. It's funny what money and time can do. She looks beautiful now, but when I met her, she was... We were sharing a 10-bedroom house in Paddington. Any of you know Paddington in Brisbane? That's me with my back to you there, and we're just studying the effects of alcohol on university students. That was our wedding photo. That suit was a work suit I wore, was brown. Anyone got married in a brown suit? This is where we started our business, in this little unit in Marsfield. We literally had those tea chests you can see there. We still hadn't got to the furniture stage. That desk somebody threw out. We've got some other furniture here. That table was given to us by my brother. See, all the chairs are different. We scabbed chairs off different people. That purple lounge suite there. Our passion at the time, skiing, you know, we'd go, this was camping at Sawpit Creek at Perisher, and I'll show you that because later you'll see a ski holiday we just finished for 5 weeks in Whistler. This is a house we got when we went platinum at Cheltenham, and that was when we were in executive platinum. That's when Rick was born. That's Rick. Rick's our firstborn, and he sits around and talks to the other two. You know, the 15-year-old, 12-year-old going, I knew them when they were poor. You know, you guys are so spoilt. Like he's got this real sad story. This is when we qualified Emerald. Tammy was just born. We just qualified Diamond. That's 12 years ago. And here's some of the after shots. This, by the way, is I told you our sponsor quit the business. There was another fella upline of him that quit the business, and he's come back and joined us. But he quit the business when we were double diamond. Doesn't mean much to you now, but people do strange things. It's just kind of normal. Here's the farm that we got. We really, really love it there. We go there, and people say to us, oh, you've bought a farm? I don't believe it. No, we've bought time with our kids. You know, every afternoon we go there after school. My daughter horse rides. We got a 15-year-old sanguine daughter. I get 2 hours a day with my daughter, one-to-one time. It's absolutely fabulous. My son's got a trail bike. Anyway, it's got 2 houses on the property. That's the oldest Queenslander in Queensland. It's 122 years old. This is one of the paddocks. That's the house we stay in. It's pretty basic, but it's okay. That's Rick. He's now 17. You saw the other photo of him. He's going to be a famous filmmaker. You'll get to know him one day. That's Blake. He's our 12-year-old. Absolute machinery freak. Anything that's got wheels he loves. That's the horse float. That's the first horse that our daughter got. That's Tammy, Tamsin, and that's her latest horse. And she's got real strong dedication. This is our real house on the beach. And you know, I just always wanted to be able to just walk onto the beach. I don't know if remotely is a dream for any of you, but we were just really excited to be able to get this house, and some of the toys replaced the Fiat. And so we enjoy living there. It's just absolute freedom. We've got lots of toys. We love doing things with the kids. Lots of spare time and choices, which is why we built it. So we'll come back later in the night. Thank you.